Union Cabinet clears ordinance to slash salaries of MPs by 30% for a year. MPLADS funds for 7,900 crore rupees to be suspended for 2 years. Funds to be used to bolster war against coronavirus. President, Vice President and governors also volunteer a similar pay cut. Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds video meet with Council of Ministers, asks them to work on a plan for graded opening of departments where hotspots aren't existing. Prime Minister stresses on ensuring reach of Garib Kalyan Yojana, popularizing Arogya Setu app in rural areas. Total number of coronavirus cases in India reaches 4,281, while 319 persons have recovered and have been discharged. 111 deaths reported so far. Goa Chief Minister Pramod Sawant announces 20% hike in salaries of health workers and doctors dealing with coronavirus cases. Confirmed COVID-19 cases across the globe crosses 13 lakh with over 74,000 fatalities. Japan likely to announce coronavirus emergency and launch $1 trillion stimulus package. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson in ICU as his symptoms worsen. And WHO says lockdowns are proving effective in many places, says lifting of restrictions require database calibrated approach. New COVID-19 deaths register fall in number in Spain. Number of new cases fall in Italy. South Korea reports less than 50 new cases. Good morning, I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Hope you're doing well. In the detailed story, among the major cabinet decisions announced on Monday, a 30% reduction in parliamentarian salaries for a year has been announced. An ordinance amending salary allowances and pension of MPs Act has been approved.
कैबिनेट ने ऑर्डिनेंस का निर्णय लिया, जिसके तहत सांसदों की 30% तनख्वाह एक साल भर के लिए कम होगा। सभी सांसद 30% का एक तरह से कट ले रहे हैं, लेकिन वो कानून में करना पड़ता है, तो कानून ऑर्डिनेंस के रूप में आज निर्णय हुआ और संसद का सत्र जब होगा तब कानून आएगा, लेकिन इसकी अमल तुरंत शुरू होगा क्योंकि ऑर्डिनेंस आया है, तो राष्ट्रपति जी के सिग्नेचर के बाद वो आएगा।
President, Vice President and governors have also decided to take a pay cut as a social responsibility. All the money saved is being redirected towards fighting COVID-19 and will go to the consolidated funds of India.
देश के राष्ट्रपति, उपराष्ट्रपति, सभी अनेक राज्यों के राज्यपाल और इन सब ने भी स्वेच्छा से अपने तनख्वाह में 30% कटौती करने का लिए पत्र दिए हैं। तो प्रधानमंत्री, मंत्री, सांसद भी एक साल के लिए 30% वेतन कम लेंगे। वैसे ही राष्ट्रपति, उपराष्ट्रपति और राज्यपाल, ये सभी भी 30% स्वेच्छा से, वहाँ कानून का मुद्दा नहीं है क्योंकि उनके सैलरीज के आने अलग अलग कानून है, उसको ऑर्डिनेंस करना ठीक नहीं होता, तो इसलिए उनकी ही स्वेच्छा से, उनके रिक्वेस्ट पर ये किया जा रहा है।
Another important decision taken is that MPLADS funds will remain temporarily suspended for a period of 2 years. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi held a meeting with his Council of Ministers through video conferencing, where he asked them to take substantive steps during and in the aftermath of the coronavirus pandemic-induced lockdown. Among other things that will ensure welfare of farmers and poorer sections of society, Prime Minister has asked all ministers to come up with a graded plan to slowly open up departments in areas that have not emerged as hotspots of COVID-19 pandemic. Here's more.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi held an interaction with his Council of Ministers on Monday and exhorted them to muster all motivation, determination, vigilance to deal with the coronavirus pandemic. It was said that the PM appreciated the leadership of the ministers and said their continuous feedback has been effective in strategizing over the tackling of COVID-19 outbreak. Thinking ahead, the Prime Minister said, "It is essential to strategize for the emergent conditions once the lockdown ends." He asked the ministers to prepare a list of 10 major decisions and 10 priority areas of focus once the lockdown ends. He also exhorted them to identify and implement pending reforms in their ministries. The Prime Minister asked all departments to maintain an objective index on how their work will promote Make in India. He said the country needs to lessen its dependence on other nations due to emergent challenges. The PM asked the ministers to prepare a business continuity plan to mitigate the impact of the outbreak on the economy. He noted that a graded plan to slowly open departments where hotspots aren't existing should be made. He said the crisis offers an opportunity for the country to become self-dependent in the medical sector. The Prime Minister also asked ministers to submit actionable suggestions on boosting manufacturing and exports. He said there's a need to ensure that new sectors and countries are added to India's export net. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also had pointers for his ministers for the remaining period of the lockdown, where he directed them to remain in touch with state and district administrations to provide solutions to emergent problems. He asked them to come up with district-level micro-plans. He urged ministers concerned to continuously monitor and ensure that Garib Kalyan Yojana benefits keep reaching intended beneficiaries in a seamless manner. He asked the ministers to explore the use of innovative solutions to ensure welfare of farmers. He suggested the use of truck aggregators on the lines of app-based cab services to connect farmers with mandis. The Prime Minister also asked the ministers to popularize the Arogya Setu app in rural areas and grassroots institutions to further spread information and awareness about the pandemic. The ministers praised the initiative of #9PM9Minute, which brought the entire nation together in the battle against the pandemic. They apprised the Prime Minister about efforts to tackle difficulties faced by migrant labor, preventing misuse of social media to create panic, maintenance of supply lines of essentials, issues faced by frontline workers, and efforts to mitigate them. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
The total number of cases in India of COVID-19 stands at 4,281, of which 319 people suffering from coronavirus have recovered. So far, there have been 111 deaths. 63% of the deaths have been reported in people aged 60 years and above. 1,445 cases so far are related to the Tablighi Jamaat. Meanwhile, Centre on Monday released an additional fund of Rs 3,000 crores to states to fight COVID-19. Spokesperson Health Ministry Love Agarwal said government had already released 1,100 crores from National Health Mission funds to the states for procurement of personal protection equipment, PPE, and food items. Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke to the King of Bahrain. The two leaders discussed the ongoing COVID-19 health crisis and its consequences, including on logistics chains and financial markets. The King of Bahrain assured Prime Minister that he would personally look into the welfare of the large Indian community in Bahrain. Prime Minister Modi expressed his heartfelt appreciation for the care and affection that Bahrain authorities have always extended to the Indian diaspora. The leaders agreed that their officials would remain in regular touch and ensure all possible support to each other for dealing with challenges of COVID-19. Prime Minister conveyed that India regards Bahrain as an important part of its extended neighbourhood. He also warmly recalled his own visit to the kingdom last year. Some international update. In the United States, the number of confirmed coronavirus cases have surged above 350,000 yesterday, while the national death toll exceeded 10,000. The US is now by far the hardest hit nation in the world, with more confirmed cases than the next three countries, Spain, Italy and China put together. And New York City area is the hardest hit part of America, with hundreds of deaths daily and harrowing scenes of panicked doctors and besieged hospitals. Though the crisis is showing signs of starting to level off in New York, it is still growing explosively in places like Los Angeles, Miami and New Orleans. In the UK, Prime Minister Boris Johnson has been moved to intensive care in hospital after his coronavirus symptoms worsened. Amidst the scare, PM Johnson has asked Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab to deputise where necessary in the fight against coronavirus. Johnson was admitted to hospital on Sunday night and had been undergoing tests after suffering persistent coronavirus symptoms, including high temperature, for more than 10 days. However, he was not put on ventilator. US President Donald Trump said that Americans are all praying for his recovery. And our UK correspondent, Holly Hudson, has more from London.
The Prime Minister himself tweeted that he was in good spirits and keeping in touch with his team from his hospital bed. He will remain in for a second night for observation, we're told, but that is of course raising questions and concerns as to whether he is in fact more ill than officials are willing to let on. Number 10 staying pretty tight-lipped about the situation, reluctant to reveal any more detail other than that the Prime Minister was admitted as a precautionary step for routine tests on the advice of his doctors, as he is still experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 10 days after his diagnosis. The Foreign Secretary, Dominic Raab, took the daily press briefing in his absence earlier and insisted that Boris Johnson was well enough to continue running the country. They are still going full throttle, as he described, and he can continue working. He is, of course, the second in command, the first Secretary of State, the person who would step in and take the reins were Boris Johnson to fall more seriously ill, and he made it clear they aren't there yet. Dominic Raab was also quizzed on the UK's exit strategy, attention very much turning towards that ahead of the government's promise to review the social distancing measures that are in place here after Easter, which is in a week's time. And medical bosses said that the restrictions are seemingly working. Cases and deaths continue to rise in the UK, but the figures are slightly stabilising, though they warned that it is still too soon to talk about ending the lockdown.
And in other parts of Europe, even if recent numbers show a decline in number of deaths, Italy is still one of the countries worst affected by the new coronavirus, accounting for almost a quarter of worldwide casualties. Some 129,000 people have been infected in the country since the outbreak was discovered on February 21st, and around 16,000 have died. The second most affected in Europe is Spain, that has reported over 4,000 new cases of coronavirus with over 600 new deaths. The daily totals, however, continue to remain on a decline mode. The total number of deaths in Spain from COVID-19 yesterday passed the 13,000 mark among more than 135,000 cases. On a positive side, a total of 40,000 people have recovered from COVID-19. They've been discharged from hospital. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said that at the weekend that lockdown would remain in place until April 26th. In France, the number of people who died from coronavirus infections increased by 10% in a day to a cumulative total of 6,494 yesterday. However, less new cases are being reported, even though the rate of death has speeded up again after several days of slowing. French people continue to be advised to keep respecting confinement measures currently in place. And Japan's Prime Minister on Monday proposed a state of emergency for several major regions, seeing a sharp rise in coronavirus cases as well as a stimulus package worth $1 trillion to cushion the impact on the world's third biggest economy. The official declaration of state of emergency would likely come today. Shinzo Abe told reporters in Tokyo as the country grapples with recent spike in coronavirus cases, especially in the capital, Tokyo.
Since there are already critical situations happening at medical facilities, we are advised by the advisory committee that we, the government, should prepare for the declaration of a state of emergency. The duration will be about 1 month. We need further cooperation from citizens to minimize contact between people, which can lead to infections. And we need to prepare well the medical system. The state of emergency will be declared for these reasons.
And our international correspondent Lucy Howe has more updates on COVID-19 from Brussels.
There are more signs of hope from Spain as it enters its 4th week of lockdown. A continued decline in the number of new cases and deaths. The death toll is down from 809 on Saturday to 637 on Monday. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said over the weekend that relaxing the lockdown measures is not yet an option. The next phase will be testing everyone with symptoms and studying the effectiveness of wearing face masks in public. There are also signs of improvement in Italy, which has reported the lowest death toll in over 2 weeks. Authorities there saying the country is now past the peak of the epidemic, but is warning of a difficult few months ahead. The lockdown measures in place are likely to be extended into May. Austria is becoming the first European country to announce plans to begin the transition back to normal life, allowing some non-essential shops to reopen next week after the Easter weekend. Meanwhile, here in Brussels, finance ministers from the Eurogroup are meeting via teleconference on Tuesday, with the EU's emergency bailout fund, the ESM, likely to be used to extend credit lines to badly hit countries like Italy and Spain to mitigate the economic damage of the coronavirus. Lucy Hoff, Dordashen News, Brussels.
And South Korea reported fewer than 50 new coronavirus cases for the first time since its peak at the end of February, as daily infections in Asia's largest outbreak outside of China continued a downward trend. But officials urged even greater vigilance, saying a large epidemic could re-emerge at any time, with smaller outbreaks in churches, hospitals, nursing homes, as well as infections among travellers continuing to rise. Globally, the death toll from COVID-19 has passed the 74,000 mark, while the number of infections rose above 1.3 million. And mainland China today reported a drop in new coronavirus cases after closing its borders to virtually all foreigners to curb imported infections, while the central city of Wuhan, epicenter of the outbreak, saw no new casualties for the first time. China had 32 new confirmed cases of coronavirus yesterday, down from 39 cases a day earlier. All of the 32 cases involved travellers arriving from overseas, compared with 38 imported cases a day earlier. The overall number of imported infections so far in China stands at 983. Wuhan, capital of central Hubei province, reported only 2 new confirmed cases in the past 14 days. It is due to allow people to leave from the city from tomorrow for the first time since it was locked down on January 23rd to curb the spread of the virus. Amidst COVID-19 scare, World Health Organization has raised concern that wearing of medical masks by general public would exacerbate the shortage of health workers on the front lines of the COVID-19 pandemic. WHO Director General said that first and foremost, medical masks must be prioritized for health workers. In a virtual press briefing, the DG asked that masks alone cannot stop the spread of pandemic, and countries must stick to find, isolate and treat every case and its contact, lauding the lockdowns across the world as an effective tool in dampening the spread of coronavirus. WHO stressed that any lifting of restrictions requires a calibrated stepwise approach based on data. WHO DG also said that organizations by the end of the week will make major initiatives to accelerate the research, development and production of vaccines for COVID-19. Meanwhile, today is World Health Day, which marks the foundation of World Health Organization. WHO on the occasion tweeted and said, "Today we celebrate the work of nurses and midwives by showing our appreciation for their bravery, courage and resolve in global COVID-19 response." Those were some of the updates shared by WHO. And on the eve of World Health Day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also took to Twitter to share his message to the countrymen and the world population. Prime Minister expressed gratitude to all frontline workers who risked their lives in the fight against the pandemic. And spring has arrived in Britain, but the lockdown due to the spread of pandemic COVID-19 has crippled Britons inside their homes. The gardeners, however, have found a way to ensure that people witness the beauty of the 174-year-old Cambridge University Botanical Garden through the Wellness Wonders, which are short videos showcasing more than 8,000 species of blossoming flowers. And a Greek pastry chef in northern city of Thessaloniki created chocolate bunnies wearing face masks and gloves, as well as needles representing vaccines and coronavirus cells made from chocolate and icing for the Easter holiday. The country has so far reported 73 deaths and 1,735 coronavirus cases. And speaking of masks, to reduce the risk of COVID-19, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare had recently issued guidelines on homemade masks. Renowned sound artist Sudarshan Patnaik has tweeted a video making his own mask at home. Take a look. And amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, remember to exercise good personal hygiene and stay safe at home. Namaskar.